Have you ever thought of changing your gender to hide from the police? I mean, I have. Not that I've ever changed my gender or anything like that. I don't believe in that woke jive, you know what I'm saying? But if I was someone who understood that sort of thing, I don't know if I would make an effort to reconnect with my ex-wife. I also don't think I would draw much attention to myself, but apparently Emelia Pérez is a different kind of gal. Emelia Pérez is the film that's on everybody's lips, apparently. And over on my channel, Movies in My Closet, I did a full review if you would like to know exactly how I feel about this very interesting film. But in this video, I want to talk about the main actress, who is indeed a transgender woman. And in this video, I want to examine her controversies and give you my thoughts. I've been locked in my dungeon for so long that I haven't really seen any of this information until today. So in this video, I'm going to read some tweets by Karla Sofia Gascón, the lead actress of Emelia Pérez, and discuss my many feelings about them, as I've heard that they're quite interesting, we'll say. But I'm getting ahead of myself as per usual. Hi, my name is katblaque, and I like to think that I make content for introspective hot people. And if you're here, I'll assume that's you. And if you're brand new here, you know exactly what to do if this video pleases you. Click my button and join us right here on the channel. So as I said, I uploaded my full review of Emelia Pérez over on my side channel, Movies in My Closet. If you are someone who would like to know all of my complete thoughts, that is the video to go watch. I will be uploading some more videos over there. Right now, I am working on so much. I'm sorry that I have not been able to get you guys the content that I've been working on. We are living in strange times where my scripts sometimes become less relevant as we go week by week. So I'm trying to find like the right time to publish some of the stuff that I have been working on and update it accordingly. But for now, I wanted to come to you guys and share this light story and also direct you guys over to my side channel where I will indeed be uploading a little bit more content because, you know, I got to disassociate from this world. You know, I got to stop focusing on the fact that I live in a country that doesn't really want me to exist. So I will probably be uploading a little bit more on the Movies in My Closet channel. I have a lot of things that I'm working on right now. I'm working on a Nosferatu video. I'm curious if you guys want to hear my thoughts about Baby Girl. I've got a lot of different things and I would like to know what you guys want to see the most. So please give me your suggestions as well as your thoughts about this very interesting story. So I am going to be reading a Variety article that is written by Adam B. Very. If you guys would like to go support his work, I will link in the description box to his Variety page. But I wanted to read it because it was one of the best resources that I could find for this information. And again, I have not seen any of these tweets. If you want to know my quick little thoughts about Karla Sofia Gascón, I thought that she was the best part of the film. It is really cool to see a transgender woman play a transgender woman, and especially what made this film interesting is she actually played a version of herself who was pre-transition. And usually when trans actresses are denied roles, the standard argument for that is that they're not willing to detransition for it, right? Now, there's a long conversation to be had about whether or not we need to have films like that where we focus on the detransition aspect. But I thought it was pretty cool that that was demonstrated in this film. And for me, that was really the extent of the positive trans representation in this film. So I was a little taken aback when I found out that apparently she has said some things. Some of those things are apparently quite racist. And I'm kind of curious what this is all about, because it has actually shocked me that this is a film that people were really into. Like I said, go watch my full review where I talk about that. But like, I am fascinated by the way that this film has performed, and low key, I think there's an agenda. You know what I mean? So anyway, let's get into it. Emelia Pérez star Karla Sofia Gascón is under fire for a series of social media posts to her account on X, formerly known as Twitter, in which the actor appears to express controversial views on Muslims, George Floyd, and diversity at the Oscars. The posts, many of which were deleted on Thursday after they were resurfaced by journalist Sarah Hagi, were largely posted between 2020 and 2021. One example dated November 22nd, 2020, "I'm sorry, it's just my impression, or is there more Muslims in Spain? Every time I go to pick up my daughter from school, there are more women with their hair covered and their skirts down to their heels. Next year, instead of English, we'll be teaching Arabic." Oh my God. Wow. You know, it's interesting when a trans person chooses to be bigoted in this particular way. I personally would not spend a lot of time talking about what women are wearing, if I'm being honest. Also, what is wrong with learning Arabic? I would love to be able to understand every Nancy Arjam song personally. Dub dub. So she is not fond of Muslims. And you know, I get why people get nervous about people who are different than them. But as long as people are leaving you the hell alone, I truly do not understand why people take issue with this. Personally, if I was worried about low birth rates in my country, I would get to fucking. That's just how I feel. I would get to fucking. I would get to fucking. I would get to raising children. I would get to building families. I wouldn't be posting on Twitter about it. Just saying. Let's keep going. Another post from September 2nd, 2020 attached a photo of a Muslim family in a restaurant, including a woman in a burqa. It reads, "Islam is marvelous without any machismo. Women are respected, and when they are so respected, they are left with a little squared hole in their faces for their eyes to be visible and their mouths. But only if she behaves. Although they dress this way for their own enjoyment, how deeply disgusting of humanity." Wow. Now, I'm not going to say that there aren't misogyny issues, right? But from the connections that I've had with Muslim women, this is very much a choice of their own. And in different cultures, you don't need to necessarily cover fully, right? That's my understanding, right? My partner comes from a Muslim family. There are women who choose very different ways to do the covering of their hair and their bodies, but it's their choice. And from my understanding within Muslim culture, it needs to be their choice. Now, obviously, there are places in the world where that isn't the case. But for a Muslim woman in Spain, especially, if you see her covered like that, that is her choice. That is what she is choosing to do. And it is very interesting to me the way that people often look at Muslim culture and stuff, especially knowing that so many of the things that they are criticizing of Muslims are things that they believe in themselves. Like, I always find it so funny when like Judeo-Christian people from America who believe in like hyper misogyny and like submissive women somehow look at Muslims like, oh my God, I can't believe that you guys are forcing women to do that. When if you had your way, you would also be forcing women to do what you would like for them to do. Also, it's so disgusting to me that she posted a picture of this family. Like, that's really, really weird. Now, if you watch my review, one of the things that I mentioned is that to me, one of the strange things about the film was that there was a theme of machismo. Emelia Pérez as a character was initially written as simply a man who wanted to have surgery to hide from the authorities, essentially. That's what it originally was. When Karla came onto the project, it shifted a bit because she is an actual trans woman and she was able to give a little bit of nuance and a little bit of context. And so it sort of changed a little bit from the initial script. But the thing that kind of remains the same that I think makes it kind of illegible in many situations is that it's clear that a lot of the script is centered around machismo and this idea of male ego and this question of whether or not you can truly let go of it, even if you're someone like Emelia Pérez, who has fully, in quotations, medically transitioned. In a post from January 29th, 2021, Gascón's account says that Islam fails to comply with international rights and that the religion must be banned as long as it does not comply with DDHH, using an abbreviation for human rights in Spanish law. Have you asked these women? Have you talked to these women about how they feel? Why are you assuming that the way that they're living their life is something that they would not have consented to or been in agreement about? It's just very weird the way that people like to rob Muslim women of their autonomy and then argue that the men are actually doing it. The commentary appears to extend to other religions as well. In a post from August 16th, 2021, Gascón writes, "I am so sick of so much of this shit, of Islam, of Christianity, of Catholicism, and all of the fucking beliefs of morons that violate human rights." I'm very curious what human rights she's specifically mentioning, because do I agree with her that many of those religions violate human rights? Sure. But what are we actually talking about? I personally have an unpopular, I guess, within my circles, feelings about religion. I get into an argument all the time with my partner, Nathan, about this because he is very opposed to religion. Like me, he grew up very Christian and was in very conservative spaces for a really long time. And so he spent a really long part of his life breaking away from that. religion can be traumatizing to people. And I understand why people would not like religion. Personally, the way that I feel is religion, as long as it's something that you're practicing for yourself, is a-okay to me. The issue that I always have with religion is when people try to project it onto others, right? I don't like the fact that there are people in this country who are trying to make this into a Christian nationalist country. I absolutely hate that. I hate the fact that there are people who want to force people into following their religion. And if Muslims were doing that, I would understand maybe a bit of where they're coming from. The closest you will ever get to that is being in a predominantly Muslim country where the norm is that you revere these Muslim practices, right? But at the end of the day, that's not really the situation that she's in. And I have a hard time taking issue with other people's religions as long as it's not bothering me personally. Along with her post about Islam, Gascón posted a long thread about George Floyd just days after he was killed by a police officer, inspiring protests across the US. I really think that very few people ever cared about George Floyd, a drug addict swindler. But his death has served to once again demonstrate that there are people who still consider Black people to be monkeys without rights and consider policemen to be assassins, she posted. They're all wrong. So let me understand this. Now, these are translated tweets, right? So I don't know if maybe these are translated 100% accurately, but did he deserve to die in the way that he did because of who he is? It's weird because on one hand, she kind of seems to be acknowledging that this is an incidence of racism, but then she doesn't quite seem to understand that it's her racism that gets her to believe that, you know, people like George Floyd are irredeemable. You know, what's fascinating is that a lot of people, you know, who are not Black get to sort of prop themselves up as long as they can imagine that a Black person is beneath them, right? And people like to maintain that system. That is kind of why a lot of this anti-DEI stuff is happening, because a lot of people are upset with the fact that there are some Black people who have been able to rise above them. George Floyd died in an incredibly violent way. That to me says a lot about how you feel about a Black person. It really does. So I don't even know what you had the second part in there for, because clearly you also see Black people as subhuman. In a follow-up post, Gascón added, "Too many things to reflect on regarding the behavior of our species. Every time an event occurs, perhaps it is no longer a question of racism, but of social class that feels threatened by each other. Maybe that's the only real difference." Wow, it's like I just said something about this. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people like to be class reductionist, right? And, you know, here's the thing, you guys. I understand why people make this argument, right? You have this conception that racism is a tool that capitalists have used in order to abuse people and to keep people separate, right? Lyndon B. Johnson said something along the lines of, give a poor white man a poor Black man to look down on, and he won't even notice that you're taking the money from his pocket. Because racism has indeed been used as a tool, for sure. I will not argue against that point. However, it's clear in her previous tweets, right, that she is not a person who is without bias. And what gets me is, while I would love to have the conversation about class, it's the fact that we can't unpack these conceptions of race that I think always prevents us from really getting there. There's a very huge issue of people who want to do this sort of like class consciousness stuff, not really acknowledging the way that they are participating in systems of oppression, the way that they are indeed participating in anti-Blackness. How are you going to work together if you're not even able to free yourself from that? How are we going to be able to be productive if you're someone who doesn't quite feel like you need to move beyond that? That's the thing that always stands out to me, right? Right now, I don't know when this video is going to get posted, but right now I'm having like a disagreement with someone on TikTok who referred to me as the ultimate ID politic villain, which was really, really funny to me. I thought it was kind of iconic, frankly.
She doesn't follow this boundary with other drama, only when critiqued by Black trans women. Yeah, it's like trying to argue with the one-legged solo poly hijabi. Like, I feel like the Democrats keep bringing out like ultimate ID politic villains that I can't take down. That's what I was going to say. Like, what am I gonna? I'm not gonna argue with a black trans woman on the internet. I'm gonna lose. Like, I'm not stupid.
But it was weird because in the conversation I was trying to have with this person, I was trying to point out that we all sort of have different experiences, that transphobia is real for me, that racism is real for me, that these are real things that we should really talk about. And the fact that every time we try to have these conversations, it's dismissed as either identity politics on the left or DEI on the right, it's kind of like we're just never able to have these conversations. And it's silly to pretend that you feel that way for reasons other than the system that reinforces this idea that Black bodies are less valuable. Gascón, who is the first openly trans actor to be nominated for an Academy Award, also weighed in on the Oscar ceremony from 2021, the first held following the COVID pandemic, in which Nomadland won Best Picture. She says, more and more the Oscars are looking like a ceremony for independent and protest films. I didn't know if I was watching an Afro-Korean festival, a Black Lives Matter demonstration, or the 8mm. Gascón wrote, apart from that, an ugly, ugly gala. Wow. So you're racist then, right? And what is she really responding to in this post, right? She's responding to the fact that she had to sit down and look at people from a different culture and maybe empathize with them and maybe learn something about them. And it's fascinating because, again, this is a transgender woman. And I will say, and you can hear more about this in my video over on my side channel, I don't think that Emelia Pérez said much at all about transgender women. Emelia Pérez is a film that uses transgender identity as a plot device. It is something that exists within the narrative as a shock that, frankly, I thought was quite underwhelming at the very end of it. I don't think that films need to be heavy-handed with all of their messaging. I don't think that we always need to get, as she describes, a protest film per se. But I definitely think that film is a powerful media that can indeed be used to encourage empathy. That's something that is very, very common in trans narratives, right? And I get why people don't want to necessarily always do that, right? I personally would rather just have a story about a trans person existing as opposed to making a grand statement. But if you are still reacting in this way, it actually validates the premise of these films being made. As long as we look at people's experiences that are outside of our own and we respond with resentment or repulsion that, of course, comes from the systems that we are brought up in that normalize this sort of otherness that we give, we're always going to want to have these conversations, right? We're always going to talk about this. There will never be a time where we move beyond this or we mature further than this because you are still stuck at the part of not wanting to humanize someone that is different from you. We are always going to be caught up there because so many people don't want to examine themselves, right? That's why I make content for introspective hot people. I want for people who watch my content to really think about how they feel and what lessons they were taught that might not have actually truly been helpful. We are all socialized in a way that might not actually be helpful to other people. And I think it's important that we do sit with those things. And instead of always having disgust, think of why we have that reaction. Why do we have the reaction of disgust? Why is it so that when you see someone different than you see someone bolder than you see someone stranger than you see someone weirder than you see someone outside of your worldview? Why is it that you struggle to listen or hear them? Why is it that you see that as a chore that you shouldn't be doing? It's interesting. I think people should think about that a bit more. A tweet from August 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic reads, "The Chinese vaccine, apart from the mandatory chip, comes with 2 spring rolls, a cat that moves its hand, 2 plastic flowers, a pop-up lantern, 3 telephone lines, and €1 for your first controlled purchase." Wow, bitch. That was like otherworldly racist, right? Also, aren't these cats, aren't they Japanese? I don't think that they're Chinese, right? I could be wrong. I'm watching Dan 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 Dan. Right. So, there's a character in there that is one of those cats, but I'm pretty sure I don't know. Well, maybe they are Chinese. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. Another tweet from February 2020 takes similar aim at China, reading so many scientists in the world making bombs, so many scholars constructing objects from space, so many medicinal factories, and there's no one who can get in line with this Chinese shit. Shrug emoji. In the end, it was a tremendous show for a new variant of the flu, avian or coronavirus. Wow, girl. So people didn't die. People didn't die. You know, it's going to be hard to deal with these motherfuckers for the next 4 years because, you know, a lot of us are going to have to start having smaller and smaller circles because so many of you don't take it seriously. People died, you know, and people don't typically die from the flu. You know, it's not super common for people to die of the flu. There are people whose lives were impacted forever because of the coronavirus, right? And no matter how racist you are, no matter how much you hate that we have to do these things, that is still true. Netflix and the Academy had no comment. Spokespeople for Gascón did not respond to a request for comment. Gascón's old social media post came to light following a separate controversy in which the actor, in an interview with a Brazilian newspaper on January 21st, criticized campaigns online that she believed attacked her and Emelia Pérez, and appeared to single out the team working with fellow Best Actress nominee, I'm Still Here star Fernanda Torres. She says, what I don't like are these social media teams, people who work with these people trying to diminish our work. Like me and my movie, because that doesn't lead anywhere. Girl, your movie sucked. Your movie was ass. Your movie was balls, okay? Your movie was not very good. I have to just you're going to get that in my other video, but your movie was not very good, bitch. I understand that you might have worked really hard on it. I really do. I understand that you put your all, and I'm really proud of you for doing that. I think you really worked hard, and I'm not going to diminish your talent. I'm not going to diminish the value of your work and your labor. But your movie fucking sucked, bitch, and you need to get over it. Gascón said, you don't need to tear down someone's work to highlight another. I have never at any point said anything bad about Fernanda Torres or her movie. However, there are people working with Fernanda Torres tearing me and Emelia Pérez down. That speaks more about their movie than mine. Well, maybe your movie fucking sucks. Maybe, you know, what's interesting to me about this film, and you know, what's ironic about some of her previous comments is, look, I've been in my own little world. Like I said, I've been locked in a dungeon for a really long time. Until daddy tells me I can leave, I haven't left, right? But, you know, now that I've made it out of my dungeon and I've seen Emelia Pérez, I don't know what the hubbubaloo is. You know, I don't know why people are so into it. It just seems like a bad movie. It seems like a movie where a lot of people worked hard. It seems like a movie where a lot of people put energy into it or whatever. But the script was bad. The acting was the songs, a couple of them were good, but most of them were bad, right? You didn't really have a masterpiece, baby. And the impression that I kind of get from the way that this film is being celebrated is, ironically, I think people, and I hate to even acknowledge this, I think people are doing a little bit of DEI, doing a little bit of affirmative action here. This movie, the only thing it had going for it was that there was a transgender woman in it. It was not a particularly good film. It truly wasn't. And if you liked Emelia Pérez, I want to know why. Give me your description of why you liked this movie, what you liked about it. What did you enjoy about it? This is a film written by a French man that was filmed in France about Mexico that stars one person from Mexico, right? I don't know what you got from it. What did you like about it? I would love to know that, because the thing is, I don't know about whether or not Fernanda Torres is in the conspiracy to take her down or whatever, but I would feel so differently if this was actually a good movie. If this was a masterpiece, right? I would feel so differently about this, right? One film that I kind of criticized but still enjoyed so much more than this movie was the film Monica by Trace Lysette. Trace Lysette did a really great job, right? She was a really great actress. I didn't love every aspect of the film. You can go watch my video about that. But in that movie, you actually do get a trans perspective. Whereas in this film, Karla Sofia Gascón is playing a transgender woman, I guess, but the script is still written as though she is a man, right? A lot of the nuances that trans women experience are not really present in this film, right? And for me, I guess maybe I'm biased. You know, I wonder if cis people watch this film and just don't pick up on all that shit. But for me, as I'm watching it, it's just not enjoyable because of all of those things, right? So it's fascinating to me that someone could feel like our film is just so good and the only reason people would not like it is because they're jealous or something. And it's like, no, baby, your film just sucks. Your film is just bad. I'm sorry. I'm actually not. Video of the interview began circulating online, leading to incorrect speculation that Gascon's interview had violated Oscar guidelines. On January 29th, Gascón released a statement to Variety clarifying her position. She says, I'm an enormous fan of Fernanda Torres, and it has been really wonderful getting to know her these past couple of months. Okay, girl, that's not what you were saying in the press. Gascón said, in my recent comments, I was referencing the toxicity and violent hate speech on social media that I sadly continue to experience. Fernanda has been a wonderful ally, and no one directly associated with her has been anything but supportive and hugely generous. See, here's what I don't understand. Why, when you are in the position that Karla Sofia Gascón is, why don't you just post this to a private Facebook, girl? Get a Finsta, okay? You can't throw hands and then hide them. You know, that's kind of what happened, right? Like, you went after her and now you're like, she's always been a hashtag ally. Girl, you were just nervous about your shit getting taken away. Okay, so that seems to be the very end of the entire article. So that's as much as I will read. But girl, like layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. Like, I do not get people like this. I really don't. I mean, first of all, write it down on a piece of paper. Right? Like, write it down on a piece of paper. I know because I have this issue. Get a journal, write it down on a piece of paper, and sometimes you will feel like you are not compelled to post it. Like, sometimes you will feel like, okay, there's just no real reason for me to do this, right? Get it out of your system and then burn it. Do you know what I like to do? I like to write something on a piece of paper. I like to dip it in some water, and especially when I'm feeling emotional, I like to tear it apart and make paper mache out of it and make a new piece of paper. Because, baby, you need to transfer that energy. Tearing the paper may be incredibly therapeutic for you. It may allow you to soothe yourself in a way that you feel soothed, right? What would have really been better for Karla is, I think, first of all, picking a better project, right? I would not die on that sword, frankly. I'm not familiar with her previous stuff. This probably wasn't one of the best ones. And I get it. You work really hard at something. It feels bad that you're getting dogpiled. I do not doubt at all that she's dealing with dogpiling and harassment on the internet, right? But, you know, at the same time, you should really be careful about this shit, right? Because I'm not even saying that she didn't have a reason to maybe feel some of those feelings. But girl, all this shit you wrote down, I would hope that you would write it down on a piece of paper, realize how crazy it is, and throw that piece of paper in the trash can. Seriously. I don't think that trans women need to like exist in this submissive position where because people are being nice to them and accepting their gender, they can never say anything cutting or critical, right? But she went out of her way to be a fucking bigot, right? And frankly, I think if I had known that, I don't think I would have sat through Emelia Pérez. But I did sit through Emelia Pérez. So if you love and support me, go watch that video over on my side channel. I actually do have a lot of very interesting thoughts about it, but that is going to conclude my thoughts about Karla Sofia Gascón's comments. Go over on my side channel, watch my review. My team and I, we worked really hard on it, so go and check out that video. Like I said, I will be uploading more of those videos because, girl, we trying to disconnect. As the world becomes more bizarre, so will I. Anyway, on that note, I will see you guys next time. Like I said, I've got a lot of things down the pipeline. I've got a lot of video essays that I've been working on. It's just been kind of hard for me to, you know, get on the train because it's, girl, the everything that's happening right now is so crazy. And low key, some of the stuff that I'm working on, I'm kind of like, do I want to focus on this? Like, I've been working on my 4B movement video for a really long time, and that's just something that keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm low-key like, do I want to make a video about that? I don't really know. I keep going back and forth. So stay tuned on here. We will be having more joyous conversations as time goes on. I definitely think that I'm going to have a combination of very serious and very silly conversations. So I'm looking forward to bringing those to you, and I will see you guys next time. As per usual, I want you to always remember and to never forget that you are beautiful and you are loved. Bye.